Hello everyone, my name is Sundas Bibi and today I'm going to teach you week 2 lesson from module Psychological Perspectives on Health and Wellbeing. The topic of today's lecture is Theories on Lifespan Development, and the learning outcomes which we are going to cover in today's session are to describe the main principles of major developmental psychological theories. So in that we are going to discuss few of the psychological theories. Then we will discuss how to apply these theories on health and well-being of the individuals and what is their outcome, and we will also discuss the strengths and the weaknesses of each theory. So let's start with the first theory, that is Freud's psychoanalytical theory. So basically, Sigmund Freud was born in Austria, and he is known as the father of psychoanalysis, basically. And his theory is called psychoanalytical theory, and it is derived from the word psychoanalysis. So why we are saying this is a psychoanalytical theory, and what does the psychoanalysis mean? So basically, psychoanalysis is a set of therapies used to treat the different mental disorders, and we can also say that Freud also gave the psychoanalytical therapy. Basically, psychoanalytical therapy treats and releases the repressed emotions and experiences. So if we talk about the main themes of the Freud theory, he talk about the instincts and unconscious motivation. So basically, first of all, discuss about what is instinct. So if we talk about the instincts are basically your inborn desires, your inborn motivation. So there are two types of instincts according to Freud. One is called eros, the other is called thanatos. So basically, eros is called life instincts, and the thanatos are basically the death instincts, and both of these instincts according to Freud, they work together often to guide human behavior. Then he also explained the three components of personality that are called it, ego, and superego. Basically, it operates on player principles. So what does it mean is basically it develops at the time of, you can say, birth, until the you can say 3 to 4 years. So at that time of period, the child is having the it component of a personality. So child wants an immediate gratification of the needs. For example, if they want a food, so no matter what the food is available or not, they will cry, and if you will not provide them with the food, they will cry and cry. So this is basically immediate gratification of needs. So that is basically called it component. The second component of the personality is called ego according to Freud. Ego according to Freud operates on reality principle. This means that a person thinks about the right and wrong. Now it develops around age 3 to 4, and at this time the child thinks about what is right and what is wrong. So basically they do behave according to their parents guidance. So they will see, either I'm going to do this thing, and either it is approved by my parents or not. So they will look into the right and right and wrong. So basically it operates on reality principle. The third component of the personality according to the Freud is superego. Superego operates on morality principles. What does morality principle means? Now the child is developing the morals, values, and principles. So they are learning from their culture, from their family, from their parents. So they will see not only the right and wrong, but they will see, if I will behave in a certain way, will I be accepted by my parents, will I be accepted by my family, friends, or not. So this is basically called moral principle. So we operate, our personality looks into the moral principle as well, moral component as well, while we do behave. So these are the three components according to Freud's psychoanalytical theory, that is it, ego, and superego. So the next one is he also explained that development of an individual is a dynamic process, and he also said that unconscious motivations are basically repressed. We repress them. So according to Freud, he also explained the three levels of consciousness, that is consciousness, pre-consciousness, and unconsciousness. Consciousness is basically what we are aware. So right now, I'm delivering a lecture, I know what I'm delivering, I know what I'm saying, so I'm aware of the reality, where I am, what am I doing. So this is basically being aware of your environment and where are you. This is called consciousness level. And then he explained the pre-consciousness level. Pre-consciousness level basically is our memory, deals with our memory. So we might not be having that information in our conscious level, but if someone asks us the question, we can readily recall that information. For example, if I ask someone, what's your date of birth, so that information might not be on their conscious level. They might not be thinking about this specific information, but when I ask them about their birthday, they can easily recall from their memory that their birthday is this. So this is basically called pre-consciousness. Now the next one is unconsciousness. Unconsciousness is basically your thoughts, desires, and impulses of which you are not aware or of, and this is basically, this operates on the largest level. So the main components of Freud's were the development of personality, three components of personality and how they develop, and three levels of consciousness. Now the next is the stages of Freud's psychosexual theory of development. So, according to him, the child's move through the five stages of development, and if at any stage the conflict arises between id, ego, and superego, that conflicts produces the anxiety. And he also said that childhood experiences affect the adulthood personality. And according to him, that it is our ego component of a personality that helps us to use the defense mechanisms to fight with the anxiety as well. So he explained the different stages. So first stage, according to the Freud psychosexual theory of development, is oral stage, and oral stage operates from birth to 1 year. So basically the more focus of child at that time is the immediate gratification of needs through the oral, you can say by eating the food, and by feeding, by eating, or breastfeeding. So that is the basically main, you can say, erogenous zone of the child is mouth or feeding. And then the next stage of an individual, according to the Freud, is anal stage, that is from year 1 to 3 years. And the main focus is on bowel and bladder control. This means that child's main focus is on toilet training, so parents start the toilet training at that time. So according to Freud, if the toilet training is strict, the child might be very organized in later adulthood, but if the toilet training is very lenient, they might be messy in later adulthood. This is just one example. So in and then the next stage after the anal stage is phallic stage, according to Freud, that operates that is from 3 to 6 years, and the main focus of child is on their genitals. And then after the phallic stage, there is a latency stage that operates from 6 to onwards, from until you can say your puberty. And at this stage, the child start focusing on their, you can say, their schooling, their academic progress and stuff. And then after that, there is a genital stage, and that operates from puberty till death. And now the childs are having more mature sexual interest. They are aware of their identities. They do develop the, you can say, attraction towards their opposite sex as well. So these were the five stages by this Freud. So if you want to look into that, you can see the different problems and fixations that can occur according to Freud at different stages. Like at oral stage, as I already said, that oral stimulation is basically our main focus. So a problem with drinking, smoking, and nail biting can occur in later adulthood. And then in the same way, anal stage, phallic stage, latency, and genital stage, each of the stages having their own main focus. And because of that, the problems can occur in each stage and then can cause the fixation, and these type of childhood experiences can affect the later on personality of an individual. Now, if we move onwards, then Freud also gave few of the defense mechanisms, and these defense mechanisms are basically, you can say, strategies that people use to use in order to avoid the anxiety. So according to the Freud, we do use the defense mechanism. These are basically, you can say, are psychological strategies that are unconsciously used by the individuals to protect themselves from the anxiety and threats. So a few of the defense mechanisms listed by Freud are repression, denial, projection, displacement, regression, sublimation. I'm going to explain few of them. Like for example, displacement. And in displacement, an individual satisfies his or his anger, his anxiety, or his aggression with a substitute object. For example, if someone is mad at their boss, they can't say anything back to their boss, but they will go home and kick the dog or start shouting at a spouse. So this is basically a displacement. And then sublimation, for example, in that an individual satisfies an impulse with substitute object. It is similar as compared to displacement, but instead of showing the aggression towards another person, they will show their aggression, or they will in a more socially acceptable way. For example, if you are angry or mad at someone, so you might go for walking, or you might stay for alone for a few of the time, so that you can overcome that anger or anxiety issue. That is basically called sublimation. Denial, then denial is also you can say denial involves basically blocking the external events from awareness. If some situation is just too much to handle, the person just refuses to experience it. For example, smokers may refuse to admit themselves that smoking is bad for their health. So this is basically called denial. And then we have repression, progression, and regression as well. And there are a lot other defense mechanisms that were highlighted by psychoanalytical theory. So if we talk about the strengths and the weaknesses of Freud's psychoanalytical theory, then Freud did explained his theory has few of the strengths and the weaknesses. Like in if we talk about the strengths, then he's making us aware of the unconscious motivation. What are our unconscious motivations? His main focus is on impact of early experiences as well, and how they affect an individual's personality later in adulthood. His focus was more on the emotional side of development as well. Then his basic strength of his theory was the development of defense mechanism, which were not highlighted by any other theorist. And he also contributed towards understanding of the mental health issues and illnesses. Then if we talk about the weaknesses of his theory, then they are little supported by the research, and there's a little evidence about few of the concepts he has explained. His theory is more considered ambiguous, inconsistent, and not easy to test. So these are few of the strengths and the weaknesses of Freud theory. So if we move forward, we have Erikson's psychosocial development of theory. Now, the Erikson's main theory was having a less emphasis on sexual urges, and he more focused on culture differences and the social factors and how they affect the development of an individual. So he gave the 8 stages of psychosocial development. So his first stage was basically trust versus mistrust. According to him, if the individual's needs are met, infants may develop basic interest around their environment and world around them. Then autonomy versus shame and doubt. That is the stage when they are going through the toilet training. So they learn to exercise and will do the things for themselves. And then the third stage is initiative versus guilt. At that stage, the children are basically the preschoolers. They learn to initiate the task and carry out plans. And if they are not supported, they might not be. They might feel guilty to be independent. Then the fourth stage is industry versus inferiority. In that stage, children start to learn player from applying themselves to the task, or they feel inferior. For example, if they start a school in the schools, if they are not motivated by their teachers or their parents, they will not try the new things, or they will not take initiatives. Then identity versus role confusions, that is around the teen age. So basically the people start developing start exploring their identities. They are aware of their gender and stuff. If not, they might be confused about who they are. Then there is intimacy versus isolation. Young adults struggle to form the close relationships or gain capacity for intimate relationship. So at that stage, either they are going to develop the intimate relationship with the opposite sex, or they might feel isolated. And then the next stage is generativity versus stagnation. That age is basically the middle aged, and now the individual feels having a sense of contributing towards the world. So they will see like if they are working well for the children, for the family, for the spouse or not. So that is basically generativity versus stagnation. Integrity versus despair is around 60 or above age. At that age, you will look back into your life. Either you have done something productive in your life, either you have achieved each and everything in your life or not. And if they are having, if they met each and everything, if they think the life they lived is a perfect life, then they feel and they start developing a feeling of integrity. Otherwise, the despair. So there are a few of the strengths and the weaknesses of this theory as well. Like it was more focused on adolescence and still relevant. Then focus was on the social conflicts across the life course, and it also emphasized on the rational adaptive nature of the individuals. And basically, he's not only talking about the biological factors; he's also talking about the social factors around individuals' development that affect them. So weaknesses are sometimes vague and difficult to test as well, and descriptive in nature, and does not explain how development comes about. So now the next theory is behaviorism. In behaviorism, there are two types of theories: classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Classical conditioning is basically when individual learns something by the association of two stimuli together. For example, if teacher wants the children to keep quiet, they will tap the pen on the table. So basically, along with that, they will give the verbal instructions in the first class. So the child, and the, first of all, when she was tapping the pen on the table, the students were not aware that what she wants to say. She wants them to keep quiet, but when she was giving the verbal instructions along with typing the pen, they do understand that she means to stay quiet. After a few of the associations of verbal instruction along with the tapping pen on the table, the students start realizing it, that this tapping of the pen means to stay quiet. And after like 2 to 3 lectures, she stopped giving the verbal instruction. She just taps the pen on the table, and students know that this means to stay quiet. So this is basically classical conditioning, to associate two unrelated stimuli with each other to develop the association to operate the behavior, or to, you can say, modify the behavior of the individual. In the same ways, operant conditioning is basically guiding the behavior, or forcing the subject to learn some behavior by associating it with the consequence could be a reinforcement or could be a punishment. So now there are a few of the strengths and the weaknesses of behavioral theories as well. So basically, the strengths are they are based on more observable behavior that are easier to quantify in research, so easily testable, and they contribute the observation learning. Observational theories are basically contributing to the educational techniques as well for the children, those who are having the learning disabilities. And the weaknesses of the behavioral theories are that the social learning theorist suggests the oversimplification, and behaviorism does not account for the free will internal influences. Like they're not talking about the internal factors like moods, thoughts, and feelings. Another type of learnings like trial and error. Thank you so much for listening to my video. If you got any questions, please do ask me.